Cheating BF with borderline personality disorder thinks he's too clever to be caught. I once dated a guy with borderline personality disorder. I had never heard of that disorder before and he certainly didn't disclose it while we were together, but I slowly learned all about it over the course of my time spent with him. If you don't know the type, he was very intense. I felt like we packed 3 years of relationship into 9 months of dating. He had to always be doing something new because sitting still was agonizing. He was emotionally unstable, but due to being an attractive extrovert, he made friends easily and quickly, but usually only maintained them so he could exploit them later. He was the master of manipulating the emotions of others so that you'd do anything he wanted. He had a perfect memory and this ability to twist around my own memories of events so that even I couldn't remember what accurately happened. He lied about anything just to see if he could get away with it, and he was narcissistic to top it all off. One thing I should say is that he was hot. And I mean, he was stupidly, ridiculously attractive, but somehow was the most paranoid and insecure person I'd ever met. I was young and naive, and he was so insanely hot that I thought it was something of a miracle that he was even into me in the first place. The romance was mind-blowing, but he started to use that against me over time, too. I did a lot of things I'm very ashamed of. As an example of how stupid I was, he managed to get me to let him hook up with other women, but of course he would get so completely jealous if one of my male friends even vaguely appeared to be hitting on me. He called me a working girl and slut and insinuated that I did the most horrifically dirty things to men behind his back when he wasn't around. I was in my senior year of university at the time, so I did a lot of studying on campus with my peers. He couldn't stand it. He ruined a lot of my friendships, and, just when I was starting to see him for what he was, he managed to get me addicted to several medication from the party scene that he had access to somehow. My self-confidence was non-existent at the end of our relationship, and I was completely dependent on him for any sort of validation or self-worth. Story: he had moved in with me since he was is essentially a grifter. No credit cards, no steady employment, no permanent address except those people he mooched off of, obscenely heavy in debt because he never paid off medical bills for his numerous trips to the ER to score pain meds. He always had weird schemes, I guess you could call them that, to get money, but they rarely paid off like he thought they would. He had nice clothes that showed off his seriously ridiculously nice body, and expensive electronics like his laptop and iPad and iPhone, but other than that he was a drifter. He'd go out of town on business trips, and yes, I know how incredibly cliché that is, where of course he was partying, sleeping with women and doing God knows what to earn cash under the table. To this day I have no idea what his regular source of income was, but I don't think he was a medication dealer just from what I've learned about him over time. Revenge: I'm a girl but I'm a bit of a dork. Or at least, I know how to use computers better than he ever did. I eventually found all his hidden laptop pictures and his cloud photo storage. I once sat there and watched his iPhone upload live romance videos to his cloud. I was an emotional wreck, but I kept it together. Eventually I had kicked enough of the medication habit to operate independently of him long term, and I started collecting evidence, though I didn't know for what. I think I just needed something tangible to hold on to tell myself what I was going through was real. So I copied all his text conversations on his phone when he was asleep, I copied all his hard drive pictures, and then I finally contacted the woman who seemed to be his main girl when he was away from me and gushed everything I had discovered. Turns out he was essentially doing the same thing to her. You could tell he had a type because she was almost a mirror of me, dark-haired, short, skinny but with ample, tracts of land, and totally clueless about the whole thing. But unlike me, she had a furious temper. She destroyed his phone and iPad while he was seeing her up in New York, and she had me erase all his pictures off his cloud and then shatter his laptop with my car several states to their south. He called me the next day with what was another iPhone that he must have bought out of pocket. He didn't know about my part of his recent turn of events, but I told him I knew what he had been up to and that I set all of his personal effects outside in cardboard boxes and told him he'd better collect them before the bad weather we were slated to have over the next several days. He was pissed and didn't believe me and never came home that week. Meanwhile all his stuff sat outside and got rained on all week. Oh, and my cat may have used the bathroom on his nicest clothes before I boxed them up, too. He eventually showed up that next weekend with the other girl by his side. I don't know what was going on that she was still around, but I suspect he was owing her a lot of money and that she intended to collect it by keeping him on a short leash. Either way, that was the last I ever saw of him, collecting all his ruined personal effects and driving away in a rental car. I learned later that when she was done with him, the other woman turned him over to the police because he had warrants in 4 states. Epilogue: he berated me on almost a daily basis for several months afterward, alternating between trying to make me feel worse about myself than I already did and then trying to get me to forgive him and take him back. He threatened to delete himself, and I suggested that he might want to seriously consider it, Considering I had just given his parents' phone number and home mailing address to all the debt collectors that were calling me at the time. He couldn't fathom that I had grown a backbone, much less gotten one over on someone as brilliant as him. He finally resorted to vulgar name-calling and trying to use my demeaning romantic past with him to bring me back down, but it didn't work. I never blocked him because I wanted him to keep sending me sob stories of how I ruined his life and what difficulties he was having now because of me. It was all very empowering. He almost caused me to fail and drop out of my senior year of college, but I somehow managed to get through by the skin of my teeth, and, after getting myself clean and doing a little counseling, I'm doing quite well for myself. Edit. I have been informed by several of you that my ex probably had antisocial personality disorder. He and I did see a psychologist at one point where she threw out numerous terms that might be applicable to his situation, APD and BPD included. Narcissistic personality disorder was on the list, too, and odds are he has several things going on at once, not one simple thing to blame. And speaking of blaming, I do want to apologize to those of you with borderline personality disorder who felt that I was attacking him due to his mental issues alone. I assure you that my totally awesome revenge was purely due to the actions he took against me, like the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the mistreatment, the exploitation, and the ruining of relationships of both family and friends. I thought the story made it clear why revenge was warranted, but if you somehow thought it was an attack on you personally because you share a similar diagnosis with my own personal demons, then I apologize. Thank you for informing me that I'm just as bad as he was. Hi guys, please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I never blocked him because I wanted him to keep sending me sob stories of how I ruined his life. That's cold. I know, right? He's a habitual liar, so I don't believe all his sob stories, but I'm okay with myself even if they were true. I have borderline personality disorder, and it scares me because I don't want to end up like that guy. My husband has BPD and he's the most amazing person I've ever met. You can be positive and peaceful, or whatever you're aiming for. Everyone's journey towards self-improvement is a little different. I believe in you. I'm curious. How did you eventually claw back your self-esteem to remove yourself the situation? I imagine you must have hit rock bottom at some point and crossed the line of what even you would accept. And I'm sure he alienated most of your friends, right? There must have been one or two left. Yeah, I did hit rock bottom. I remember laying on my bathroom floor, feeling like I was about to out on some of the medication he had stashed away for my habit, and my cats wandered into the room meowing pitifully. I realized that if I was peacefully deleted, no one would feed them and they'd starve until someone either came looking for me or until he came back in a week. It was rough, but I decided that I couldn't let anyone hurt the lives I cared about, even if they were cats. Obviously it was a long way up from there, but that's the earliest staring point I can remember. As a non-English speaker, what does ample tracts of land means? It's a reference to the British comedy movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, when a character was talking about breasts. I'm saying the other girl had decent-sized watermelons for her size. I have BPD and didn't think you were picking on him for having mental issues. If he knew he had issues, but didn't stop everyone now and then to think about how he's behaving, then it's not his mental disorder, he's just being an arsehole. Regardless, nice revenge. Hope you're doing well in life now he's gone.